Hey, what is up, everybody? I'm Jason, and you're watching my channel, Micro Investor. So, we got some bad news that we just recently heard about Workhorse not getting the contract with the United States Postal Service. So the stock has taken quite a big hit from that. And I know a lot of people out there have been investing in this company hoping that they were going to see something positive coming through to that, but the contract was lost to Oshkosh Corp, and that's not Oshkosh, the kids' clothing company. This is a company that's been around for over 100 years that has made trucks for the military. We're going to be talking about that, as well as what is ARK Invest doing in this situation. As you know, the ARK Invest has been a pretty big shareholder of Workhorse. So what is Cathie Woods doing with what is going on now with Workhorse losing that contract? What are they doing now that the stock has come down a little bit? So we're going to be covering all that in this video. If you guys don't mind, please do me a huge favor and please be sure to smash, destroy, and announce that like button, because that helps me out with the YouTube algorithm and helps spread my videos to more people that might find them interesting. Also, subscribe if you have not already. And if you guys are interested in being a Patreon, I would greatly appreciate that. The link is in the description, and I have a private Discord attached to it. Anyways, let's get to it. So let's take a look at these last few days here with Workhorse. Now, Workhorse was a stock that was trading for above $30 a share, and then as this news came out, or as word started going around that, hey, Oshkosh might have gotten this contract, it really does start taking an effect on the stock, and then when it is confirmed, Workhorse's stock just plummets, and it plummets on into Wednesday, and it just stays down for most of Thursday. Now, there was some movement that happened towards the end of the trading day, and we'll get to why that happened, but there has been pullback that has been coming in after hours. Now, let's get to what is going on with Workhorse right now. Cathie Woods of ARK Invest saw this as a big buying opportunity to add more shares to the ARK Autonomous Technology and Robotics ETF, ticker symbol ARKQ, and added 660,500 more shares of Workhorse on Wednesday, according to a daily email showing trading activity from ARK Invest funds. The ETF now owns 3.2 million shares of the stock, valued at $49 million. Workhorse makes up around 1.3% of the fund's assets. And this isn't the first time that ARK has purchased a dip on Workhorse. It did the same thing back in December when it was announced by USPS that they would be delaying the contract for 180,000 new vehicles. Now, the ARK Autonomous Technology and Robotics ETF has been one of the top performing ETFs of the last year, with a return of 120%. Now, the ETF ARKQ is seeing a little bit of pullback here recently. The total assets in this portfolio are worth $3 billion. But to give you an idea of what's going on with this one is that its two largest holdings, one of them being Tesla, which makes up over 10%, and the other one is Materialize NV, which is a Belgium company, a Belgium 3D printing company, and that one is down quite a bit here recently as well. But for the most part, everything else here has been doing very well. But all in all, the reason why ARKQ has been doing so well is because it is an actively managed ETF. Cathie Woods does a really good job of selling off some of the stock that is doing very well, and then reinvesting that in stocks that are taking quite a big dip, which is what exactly she did with Workhorse. Now let's take a look over at Oshkosh Corp. They have a market cap of $7.4 billion, which is somewhat of a market cap that recently, not that long ago, Workhorse had, but now Workhorse is has a market cap of $2.3 billion at its current price of today. Now, Oshkosh, though, obviously is a much older company since they've been around since 1917. They're a lot more established. They have contracts with the government, whereas Workhorse is a little bit hard to really price in what they're doing because they haven't really sold that many vehicles. Now, they have what they own with Lordstown Motors, but Lordstown Motors isn't still selling vehicles. So a lot of right now with Workhorse is a lot of speculation. And Oshkosh has really taken the win there because they're going to be able to sell a lot of vehicles to the government with that USPS contract. And Oshkosh is also a stock that pays out a dividend. They have a 1.17% dividend yield right now. But there might be a little bit of a problem with this Oshkosh deal, actually, and that's some newer news that has actually just come in not that long ago. Now, a lot of you probably have already heard that Oshkosh is not planning on making these necessarily electric vehicles, and that might now be a problem. So the United States Postal Service is finally retiring its aging mail trucks. It unveiled plans this week for a new delivery van with a host of improvements, such as a bigger windshield, a collision avoidance system, and air conditioning. If you guys didn't know this, those USPS trucks that you see, they do not have air conditioning. Those mail trucks, you got to give it to them for going out and doing deliveries, driving around those things in the summertime in the heat, and delivering mail to everybody in those things. About 10% of them will have batteries-driven electric powertrains. The rest will use gas engines because the cost of buying an all-electric fleet would have added billions of dollars in cost to the multi-billion-dollar project. Postmaster General Louis DeJoy told a congressional hearing on Wednesday the Postal Service awarded a contract to Oshkosh worth an initial $482 million to complete the design of the so-called next-generation delivery vehicle. It will be a right-hand driven van with more cargo room for packages from e-commerce services. Now, the whole contract itself is worth $6 billion, and they're going to be putting up an initial $482 million just to complete the design of this thing, and they can't even come up with a working strategy to make an electric fleet of these vehicles. That's kind of a big problem, since the big selling pitch to this was to make more better vehicles for the environment. They have to think about things that are not going to break down so much, that are going to be able just to continue operating in service, and electric vehicles are the way to go, since that is a direction that everything is headed, and especially in most states where they're trying to do away with combustion engines. So it doesn't really make sense that that's their plan to do something like that. And it's also possible that there could have been some sort of political decision that has been made for the reasons why Workhorse actually lost a deal to Oshkosh. But just look at how bad the idea of this deal is. Mr. DeJoy said Wednesday that each of the gas-powered vehicles will have the capabilities to be converted to electric motors in the future. Does any of that really make any sense, to spend even more money in the future for something that it took forever to get the funding for, to say, hey, we're just going to take them as this right now. They're not even going to start really making these till 2023. And then in the future, we can just convert them into electric motors, because you know how easy it will be to get the funds for that. It doesn't really make any sort of sense to me. Now, the current USPS delivery trucks that you see everywhere, you've been seeing the same ones for decades. That's because they haven't, all the ones you've seen on the road, for the most part, have been in operation for decades. Those are from a company called Grumman, and they stopped making those a long time ago. And those are made out of modified Chevy S10 chassis, and they get about 10 miles to the gallon, especially with all that stop and go action that they're doing, turning them off, having to restart them and start going. It doesn't really make sense in today's world, especially with technology, how a vehicle can just be electric, and it can just, once it's not going anywhere, it's just not using electricity besides for what it's really operating, other than driving. But you guys get the point there, that the way we're headed already, it makes sense that the Postal Service would go that route. At least start making some vehicles that way, and start retiring the majority of these really bad Grummans, and start putting in new things that are electric in there. That should be a better idea, just to start going that route. But it doesn't seem like Oshkosh is really trying to cater to that market, and the idea of converting them in the future to a more electric drivetrain doesn't really make any sense. So who knows? It would be funny if this does resort back to Workhorse in some sort of way in the future. And that could be Cathie's idea here with investing so much into Workhorse, because they could still possibly get this contract if they decide this is a big waste of money to do this. So anyways, I'd like to hear your guys' opinions. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. New videos coming out on my channel all the time. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all in the next video coming very soon.